Hi everyone, so welcome back to my channel. So in this video, as I said in the last one, I'm doing spring flowers, so I'm going to do a daffodil. I have actually made one up already to show you what the finished product looks like, so I'll just take you down to my board here. So here is a daffodil that I've made, so you can see all the features in it, including the sheath that form the outside of the bud. So I'm going to put all the details in. The only difference is I'm making the stamens smaller because I found these a little bit big when I made these. So, oops, my camera slipped. Sorry about that. Just switch off and sorry about that. I'd had to tighten the back of my camera up because it started slipping. So I'm going to take you all through the different stages for this. But before I do that, I'm just going to show you the templates here, which you can download from my website. And at the bottom here, you've got the daffodil. Now, what I've done is I've enlarged the this part of the daffodil to make the centre for that, because I found this too shallow. So what I would suggest you do before you cut it out is to draw yourself another line round the top here, just a straight line. Don't bother about the scallops on there, and then make it a little bit wider as well. So if you do what I'm doing here and then bring that round and follow the line round there, and that's what I would do. Now, there are two different ways of doing your petals. If I just get my daffodil back. For this part of the daffodil, you could use that method, which means making one flat and one making a Mexican hat part. In fact, I might show you that during the video while I'm doing it. Or what I've used here is a cutter that I've got here, which is actually from a Eucharis lily, which is very similar to a daffodil, but it means making the petals individually, which is what I've done here on this one here. So that's what I'm going to actually do on my flower. So another thing that I'm going to talk about before we get started is equipment. Now, you could use veiners for a daffodil. They are available. There is somebody on eBay selling Alderval veiners, which is this is their veiner. So if you want to get the veiners, that's up to you. I'm doing it without veiners because I know a lot of people don't have all the equipment, plus the fact the veining is very, very faint on the side petals, so that's why I haven't used those, because you can make it a bit more obvious. So we'll get on to it now. So I'm going to start off by making the centre part. Now the centre part of the flower, hang on, I'll get some paste out here. I'm just going to start off with a small amount because I don't need much for this. Now the centre part, or your pistil, is this part here. I've already coloured this one here. So I'm just going to show you how to make that part. And what I've done is I've got a 20 gauge wire. So you need quite a long stem on these. It depends on what you're going to use your flowers for. But this is, again, is a life-size flower, so they're quite big for putting on cakes. But you could always do an arrangement at the side of a cake, which is what I've done in the past. If you want to do something that is life-size like this, doesn't necessarily have to be on your cake. That is if you're making your flowers for a cake. If you're making them for decorative purposes and things like that, it doesn't matter, because life-size flowers are a good thing to know, because then if you wanted to make an arrangement of flowers, you could do. So if you were going to do roses for an arrangement rather than putting them on for a cake, then you would put them on longer wires than the ones that I quite often show in my videos. Just extend and use your own initiative on what you want to do. So I'm going to take a small piece of paste. So it's about the size of a marrowfat pea. And because this paste is quite sticky, this is a flexible paste that I'm using. So if you want my recipe, you can find it on my website, which is probably the highest viewed video that I've got on there. So thank you for all those that have viewed that. And all I'm doing is just thinning it down between two fingers like that. Then what you need to do then is get it between your finger, finger and your thumb, and just squash the top bit down. Now the next part to it, what can I find where I've put my little cell stick? It doesn't matter, I can't find my cell stick, so I'm going to use, you could use a brush handle for it. I've got one here, anything like that. And what you're going to do is you're going to make 3 impressions into your paste. And try and get them as even as you can, like that, and then squash it back down again, and then just go back in just to reshape it again. And keep squashing it down and keep doing it until you've got the desired shape that you want. I'm practically there with this. And if you squash underneath, then just roll it again just to make sure that that is nice and thin, you haven't flattened it. So there, that's your basic shape. So it's a bit like, I'm just trying to think, like a club on your cards. That's what you're aiming for, that sort of shape. So you've got like 3 bulbous parts to it. So I'll set that to one side to dry. So I'll just pop that away. And then you want some thin wires, a 30 gauge wire or a 32 gauge wire, it doesn't matter which. Hang on, I've got some shorter ones here. Here we are, I think. Yeah, that's 28 gauge wire. And what you're going to do with these is, you want a tiny, tiny ball of paste, and I mean tiny. If that's probably too big, so if you just cut that in half, and take half of that, and roll it again, so you've got an even smaller ball of paste. And you can still take some more off if you find it's too big when you get it on your, whoops, drop that one. Where's my other piece gone? There it is. Just get your wire and pop that into your paste. If you're using ordinary flour paste, don't forget, if it's not sticky, to put some glue on it. But with these pastes that are quite sticky, you don't need any glue on. So once you've got that on your wire, I'll just get this yellow pad so you can see what I'm doing. And then just roll it between your fingers and just thin it at the top and at the bottom. So you've got sort of like a bud shape. Like that. So I'm just going to check that against the ones that I've already made. Oops, that's dropped off. Dropped off while I wasn't looking. I must have gone too far past the end of the wire. So if that happens, like I say, I never stop the video. If something goes wrong and do it again, I carry on with it and show you how to correct it. Right, so once you've got that onto your wire, just make sure that stays on your wire. So I'll check it this time. Make sure that's still on my wire. Till you've got your shape like that. So I'll just check it against one of my that I've made, and it's smaller than the ones that I've made before, but which is a good thing. So what you need to do then is, all of those stamens that you've got there, we need to bend those. So if you get hold of them with a pair of tweezers, just underneath that part, and just bend that over like that. So if we do that with all of those, and you need 6 of these, and I've mislaid one somewhere, I'll use that one that I've just made. So just turn them all over and put them back on my yellow pad so you can see what I'm doing. Get it out, hold of it right underneath the bulbous part there, and just turn those over like that. These have been made today, so they've set. Have these, and I don't know what I was doing when I counted these, because obviously I didn't count correctly, otherwise I would have had 6 of them, unless I've got another one on there that I've missed. No, use that one that I've just made. Just turn that over. Right, so that's all those made. So we can put those to one side now. So you've got your centre made, and you've got your stamens made. So the next thing to do is to put pollen onto your stamens. Now what I've done here, I've started off with the pollen that I already had made here, which is the normal yellow pollen that I use for quite a lot of flowers. And what I've done is I've put some of it into a separate container, and I've added some sunflower colouring to it to make it dark. See the difference between those two. If I open that tub, you'll be able to, that's a bit better. So you can see the difference in the colour between the two. It is quite a dark pollen on some of the daffodils, but there again there's lots of different varieties, so it's a matter of having a look at the varieties and then deciding which one you want to do. And then what I've done is I've dusted the centre part with the sunflower colour. Now I'm using all edible art colours here, apart from one. So, and I think I've got something mixed up there. No, that one's Harvest Sun, sorry, wrong colour. Now what have I done now? Yes, it was sunflower that I've used for that, to dust that. So that's the same colour that I've mixed in with this pollen, so it's made it probably slightly lighter. So the next thing you need to do then is to get your glue. And we need to do all these stamens that I've just done here. So if you just dip those in the glue, and then into your pollen, if you just get it to one side and get the whole of your pod in, knock off any excess like that. So you've got your pollen on that now. So if I do that with all of these, sometimes I switch off when I'm doing jobs like this, because it can be a bit boring for you to sit and watch me do all of them. There are only 6 of them, and it's quite a quick job to do. Don't forget, if you've got any questions about anything that I'm doing in this video, then please do leave them in the comments section below, or anything you'd like to see me do. Anything, it doesn't matter what you want to say. Please do get in touch, because I do check all of my comments, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. It depends. If I don't get to them straight away, it's because either I've been out and I couldn't get to them or whatever. But I know that some people on YouTube don't reply to the comments. I've found that with people I've commented to, and I think that's rude, is that. There's no reason why you can't answer people's queries. I have got one or two regulars that send me regular messages, and as they know, I do try and get back as soon as I can. Right, there we are. So that's that bit done. So then, what I've done then, as I say, I've dusted the centre of this with the sunflower dust. So that's all ready to assemble those. Now you need to do all this before you start doing your centre for your flower. So I'm going to get this bit done together, then I'll show you the petals, because I've already made all my petals already ready to go. So I'll just get some tape. Here we are. I knew I'd got some out ready. So I've just started that underneath my column here. I'm just going to take a bit off there because that's a little bit long, is that column. I'm going to shorten that a little bit. This is one of the advantages with this flexible flower paste, because it's quite soft. You can do that, even though that's been done a day. It was made yesterday. Now I don't know whether this is going to work, and some people might find it a bit strange, but I'm saying this in the video for anybody that's watching it because I'm going to set this video as a premiere in advance so that people can make comments before. I've just been reading up on it. I know that you've been seeing the video and this will have been done before you see it, but that's why I've set it. I'm just trying it out just to see how it works. Now what I need to do now is to pop these stamens in so that they're just slightly lower, just underneath the cap of that pistil that I've just done. Keeping your tape at the same level. You can adjust how they are once you've got them in. Don't worry about that just at this particular point. Just need to make sure that when you've got them in, that all your stamens are all facing out from the pistil. But like I keep saying in all my videos, nothing is perfect in nature, so don't worry too much about that. Another thing you could do as well, which I haven't done here, you could dust your wires with a bit of light green if you wish, but you can't really see them, so I haven't bothered dusting them. But if you're being a perfectionist, then you would. So once you've got them in, then just tape down with your tape, just to make sure those are all in place. That all needs to be covered. Just make sure you tape straight. There we are. And I'm going right down to the bottom with that because I'm not taping any, well, I'm going to tape something else on the petals. Now you can adjust your stamens to get them as you want them. So there we are, that's your pistil and your stamens put together. So we can pop that to one side now. So the next thing I'm going to do is, I've got two different colours of yellow here. I've got some done with the sunflower paste, and then I've also watered some of it down with white, and I've gone to probably about at least 2 shades lighter. It depends on how you want your daffodils to be, but generally with some of the yellow ones particularly, not all of them, but with some of them, the centre trumpet part is darker than the petals, so I'm using this to do the trumpet part. And the reason I'm doing this first before I do the petals is because then I can leave this to sand a little bit to firm up. Just need to put some white fat on there so that that sticks to my base. And I've just noticed I've used the wrong stamens for that centre there, but never mind. Now you want it to be quite thin. You don't need a ridge or anything up this, up the centre of this. This does its own thing. Just pop that over there. And I've just found a small stamen that I thought I didn't have. And then what I did, I put the cutter on my paste before I cut it out. This is the cutter that I've used to do the template for online. So what I did was, got my cutting wheel and I started like that, doing it much higher, coming round in the arc like that. Then bring that down so that this is wider. And then take it round, following the shape there, like that. So then I've got a much bigger piece. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just get that to one side. So what I'm going to do now is, those are the stamens that I should have used, which I haven't. So do your stamens smaller than mine. I'm only going to thin the two edges here because these are the two edges that we're going to attach together. So if I get my ball tool and just thin those edges there. So that's that. So then you want your silk veining tool. Oh, it's there. If I put everything in one place, I'd be a much better worker, wouldn't I? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, and you are going to stretch your paste again, so it will be longer. Start from your centre or wherever you want, and just go around and roll your veins into your trumpet. And then get onto the edge of your finger, then you're going to frill the edge again, keeping the point of your silk veining tool up in the air because you don't want a ridge there digging into your paste, and frill it quite well. And the reason for this is when you put your trumpet together, you're going to be able to open your trumpet out. And if you don't frill it, you won't be able to do that. It'll just be straight up and it'll be stiff. And like I say, it'll just look dead. It won't look lifelike at all. Right, so that's that bit done. So the next thing you need to do now is to find something that you can shape your trumpet round. So, what did I use? There we are. I have a small rolling pin here. It's a bit tatty as this. I'm not using it for anything. So what I'm doing is putting the... you can do whichever way around you want. So I don't spoil my frills. I'm putting it in that way. And then glue one edge of your daffodil trumpet like that. Bring that side of the trumpet over your rolling pin like that, and then bring that side of your trumpet up like that. Whoops, that wants to come where your bottom joins like that, and you can bring that out at a slant like that. Once you've done that, and I think I've stuck it to my rolling pin. Right, once you've done that, Then get the bottom of your trumpet and bring it all together like this, like that, and then with the end of something larger you can go into the centre of your trumpet and just press it down like that, and then just bring the edge of your trumpet out all the way around. So we'll just pop that down there for now, and then if you get your centre that you've done with your stamens, oops, gonna drop my brush into my pollen, shouldn't have done that. And then what I'm going to do then is I'm going to put some glue just round the base of the stamens there. Then if you get your trumpet, put your wire into the centre and pull that down until that goes down into the base of your trumpet. Now you might need something to open your petals out a little bit here, because I put the stamens that are too big in. I'm just going to bring this out now so that they sit inside that, and just play around with it until you get it just as you want it. And what I could do is to slide that bit of the trumpet round a little bit, because I've overlapped a bit more than I intended to there. Then once you've done that, then just thin the back down there so that stays onto the wire like that. So that's well attached to your wire, so that's thin down there. And then what you can do is take some of that off, because we don't want that very long on there, because you've got to attach your petals to the base of your trumpet. So just go back in and thin that down again a bit, just to make sure that's well and truly attached to your petal. Now that should stay as it is now. So you can put that to one side to stiffen up. So we'll get rid of that paste now, and we'll go on to the lighter yellow I've got here. Just get rid of my pollen. Oops. Knocking things down. Just bring you down here a bit. Now you want some more white wires, so I'm using 26 gauge wires. You could use 28 gauge wires, they're only small petals. So what I'm doing is, I say, I'm using this cutter from the Eucharis lily, which looks like a daffodil. So it's that one on this side here. If you want to do it the other side with the Mexican hat method, I'll show you that after I've done this, but I'll start with this one first. Put a little bit more paste on there, a bit of white there that I've left out. The good thing about this flexible paste is if you have a habit of forgetting to put it back in your bag, which I do, and I always have done right from the beginning when I first started learning, I used to get told off for that. It doesn't dry out like normal flour paste. I mean, I found a bit left on here that I'd left yesterday, and I could still knead it. You wouldn't have been able to do that with normal flour paste. It'd be rock hard and it'd be no good. But I'm not saying you should leave them out. No, you shouldn't. Right, so what I'm doing is I'm using my ridge rolling pin here. I just want one ridge here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to line that up and cut out one petal. You need 6 of these. I'm only doing one because, as I say, I've already made mine. And then we can pick that up to, want to find me, there it is, my little spatula. Get onto my finger and thumb, and then get your white wire, get your wire into it. So there we are. I'm going to use a white pad for this so you can see what I'm doing with this. So I'm going to turn it over onto the flat side. I'm going to put it on the palm of my hand, and then with your silk veining tool, wrong one, in the centre, carefully roll out. Try not to change the shape too much, leaving your point at the top there like that. And then on the edge of your finger, then with your top of your tool up, then start going round the top edge, just round the rounded part, just to give a bit of movement to your petals so they're not flat. As I said before, even though a lot of flowers have got quite flat petals, if you leave them like that, they just don't look realistic. And you can, if you want, shape that, bring it more to a point if you want on the top part, and then that goes into your foam like that. Okay, so that's that part. Get that out of the way. So the next thing we need to do now is to colour the petals, which I've already dried. And I've got two colours on here. I've got a light yellow on there, and I've got a lime green, which I've put the wrong tops on the wrong pots. That's where I was going wrong. That's the sunflower yellow that I used for the trumpet, and this one, which has got the wrong cap on, this one is actually one from, oh, Rainbow Dust is this, but there is one in the edible art range, or any other range that you're looking at. I just tell you that one because they're the colours that if you want to buy them yourself, you can do online. I don't have any affiliation with them. I just bought all my colours when I was teaching for my students, but I haven't dealt with them for quite a long time. But you can buy direct online from them at Edible Art World of Colour, all one word, .co.uk. Now I want a yellow brush, one that I've used for yellow somewhere. There it is. And then I'm just going to use this very light lemon. This one's actually called Lemon Tart from Rainbow Dust if you use their colours. And what I've done with that is just get all my petals onto the side there, and all I've done is just dusted that all over, and the back as well. And just reshape your petals if they've gone out of shape. This is what I love about this paste. I know I get excited about it, but it's so wonderful to use because it stays flexible. And if you haven't got time and you need to go back to something and you need to reshape it, you can do. Whereas other pastes, the ones that are commercially, I don't know why I haven't come across anybody in this country, in the UK, that's picked up on making this yet. Why aren't you making it? But the trouble is they would charge too much for it because it's so much cheaper to make your own, even with ordinary flower paste. I have got a recipe on my website somewhere with normal flour paste. I did a vegan one, which has not got no egg whites in it. So that's suitable for everybody, whether they're vegetarian or what they are. Although you're not going to be eating these flowers. I mean, let's face it, it doesn't actually matter. But some people might have an aversion to using egg whites in the paste. And last one. Now, as I say, there's lots of different colours in daffodils. If you've ever been to any of the flower shows, our first one here in the north of England is the Harrogate Flower Show, which is the first one in the season. And they do have a competition there for all the different daffodils. It's surprising how many different colour combinations there are. It's amazing. It's worth going to see if you get a chance to go see that, or any of the other spring flower shows that actually have spring flowers like daffodils and tulips and things like that. Right, so back to my tape. That's a bit short, is that? Get a longer piece. There we are. Always start off with a longer piece and you don't have to keep adding to it. Right, so forget my centre that I've already put together there and start my tape off underneath there, like that. Then if you get your petals and bend them down and pop those in there like that. You don't have to be right down with them, you can keep them slightly up until you get them in, so you can see where your petals are going to go. Then you can adjust your petals once you've got them in. So what we're going to do is put 3 petals in to start off with. So you've got your Island Man shape, the 3 legs we call it, like that. Bring that around that side, that round that side. And then when you've got those in, then put your other 3 petals in between those. So if you put that there, halfway across those 2 petals there. Probably doing it with your petals up like this is probably an easier way, because everything stays put, then you don't get things crossing over where they shouldn't be crossing over. And then the last petal goes in there, like that. At this point you can just check your petals just to make sure that all your... Get out of the way. I need some new glasses because everything's looking a bit blurred here. One of these days I'll get to the opticians and... because these are an old pair. Right, once I've done that, then I'm going to tape down. We're not going to tape anything else in. The next pieces of the daffodil are just done with paste. So tape right down to your bottom again. And then what you can do then is to start opening your petals out. So you just carefully get in. Make sure you get your finger on where the wires are so you don't damage your petals. And open those out. So as your back 3 that you've done first of all, and then your inner 3 petals. Like that. Right, I'm just going to put that to one side now, because I need to get some green paste out. I'll just get rid of this colour, so we don't need that anymore. And I need a little bit of green here. I've got some light green in there. And we need a small piece of paste here. This is going to make the hip. So if I show the one that I've already done, the back, that's this part here, which is where the seeds would be in your daffodil. So ball of paste, get your daffodil that you've just done, pop that onto there like that, and then if you put a bit of glue just at the base of your petals here, just so that it's got something to stick to, bring that up to the top underneath your flower like that, and then just shape that. Just thin it down below the back part onto your wire. So you've got that shape. Before we can do the next part now, we need to dust this and varnish it because it is quite shiny. So if I just get my green brush, which is here somewhere, I'll see what I've done with it. Put things away when I finish with it, and I should have left that out because I needed it for the next stage, and I can't find my green brush. Probably underneath there somewhere. That's it. Just seen one there that by the way, when you're doing your veining on your petals, if you want to, you can use corn husk as well. That's another way of veining your petals. That's just another alternative to what I showed you with the that one I'll do. I've got a small one here. I'm just going to use this one just to dust this part. So just very carefully, starting from the top of your hip, just dust down with your, if I turn that up that way so you can see what I'm doing. And the colour that I'm using here for this is, I think it's spring green. Either spring green or ginkgo will do for this, from Edible Art. I'm just mentioning those names because I know I use their colours all the time. Because unlike a lot of makes, they are a lot cheaper. I don't know what they are now, but they used to be about £2.10, where some of the colours I've seen, you can pay £5 or £6 for a pot of colour, and there's no more in them. I used to use Squire's Kitchen before I started with these, but they were always front of the show whenever we went, and they had massive crowds round them trying to get their colours. They are very popular. Right, so next stage is we need a brush to varnish. So I've got a brush here. Just pop that down for a minute. Put the top on my glue before I knock it over. And I've got some leaf varnish here. All these things come in handy. You should really have these in your store. And then I'm just going to dust the varnish over the green. So that's like that, so that's nice and shiny. I can pop that to one side now. And clean my brush. So I've got my little jar here with a bit of isopropyl in. Don't forget to clean them, because if they go stiff you can't use your brushes, they're ruined then. Same with colour. We use this for cleaning with all sorts of stuff like that because it evaporates and doesn't leave any trace behind. And anybody that is vegetarian, it is suitable rather than using vodka or gin or whatever, because it's like the alcohol they use in hospitals, only an edible version that anybody can use. So there's no worries, because I had a lot of Asian students and I had to explain this to them every time I did anything, so that they knew it was something that they can use, because I know what they're like about not using things that they shouldn't use. I was going to clean that brush and show you that again as well. You can't, it's here. I've got a dusting bag here. Let's just get rid of that colour. This has got corn flour in it. So if you haven't got a lot of brushes with colouring, for colouring, you need to be able to use the same brush for different colours. And the way to clean your brushes is with either corn flour or icing sugar. And if you just work your brush in the powder, as you can see, it's bringing the colour out. Then just onto your hands, just to make sure that you've got the colour out. And just go back in again until you're satisfied. Enough colour off your brush so that it doesn't affect anything else that you use. That's a lot paler now, so that should be alright. If I get some kitchen roll here and just demonstrate. You put that down there and then just work your brush on it just to make sure the colour's out. That's practically clean as that. It's not coming out, isn't the colour? Just a tiny bit there, but that's alright. Right, let's get rid of that. So the next stage we need to do now is to make the sheath that goes at the back of the flower, which is the part that forms the bud before it opens. And I've got some paste in here in the right colour somewhere. I'll find what I've done with that. Is that it down there? No. There it is. I knew I had some. So the colour that I've used for this is, it's called Ivory. Hang on, I'll just get the... Caramel Ivory from Sugar Flare. If you use Wilton colours, they do an ivory colour, which is the same as this. But if you're wanting to do things like light browns, and that's basically the colour that it should be. But if you're doing an ivory cake and you want to match your royal icing up with it to pipe on your ivory cake, then just the end of a cocktail stick into your icing makes you a creamy colour for doing ivory sugar paste. So that's another tip for you there. So if you're into cake decorating, you now know how to colour ivory paste. I'm just going to get another bit of kitchen roll to get rid of that off there. So we don't want to get any green on this. Right, so I've just got a small piece there. I'm just going to roll out. Get it as thin as you can. You're going to roll it out thinner than you would do for your petals, because obviously you don't need a ridge up this. So like I did for the trumpet for the centre of the flower. And with some of these darker colours you can see when it's getting thin, because it starts getting more opaque like that. There we are. Then you want your cutting wheel, and I'm going to cut out a long triangle like that. I haven't quite got up to the tip on that. There we are, that's better. So you've got a long triangle like that. And if you've got some corn husk like this is getting a bit tatty, I need to get some more. Pop the other side, that's the non-waxy side, and just get your finger on it and just roll it onto your corn husk like that. So that's going to be outside of your husk or sheath or whatever else you want to call it. We can give all these things fancy names, but you don't need to remember them, you just need to know which part they are. We're not in school now having to do an exam on this sort of thing. Because when we did teaching in college, all the exam work, as you might call it, and that was done while you were working on something. Right, so the next thing that I need to do now is I need my glue again, and this time I'm just going to glue across the bottom there. If you want any more glue you can add that afterwards, So that's your flat side and your husk is on the other side. Then you put that onto your wire below your flower like that. Then you bring one side round like that, and then bring the other side round the other way like that, so that your point is just underneath your petals there. And then once you've got that on, then you can just roll that on like that. That's stuck to my... Now I would advise that it might be a good idea to leave your glaze to dry before you do this, which I haven't done there, so it's stuck to it a little bit. So you've got your sheath on the back of your daffodil there. So there we are. That's my daffodils. Now another little tip here as well, if you want to thicken up your wire, because they have a thicker stem, they are quite fleshy, you just get some full width tape, find your sticky side, and start that just underneath your sheath. You could put this on before you put your sheath if you want, and then just go down, because when your tape is wider it thickens it up as well. There are other ways of thickening your stems if you want something thicker than this, but on this particular flower that'll be thick enough. So that thickens your stem up a little bit as well. So there we are, that's my daffodil. Hope you've enjoyed this video. So don't forget to if you've got any comments or anything you'd like to see in future videos, then leave them in the comments before. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe to my channel. It's free to subscribe and you'll be notified when I upload new videos if you want to follow me. So there we are. So take care, stay safe, see you soon.